So let's talk a little bit about what a theme is and what's going on with this whole subject business. We've been tracking evidence that has to do with subjects and themes throughout the reading. And now we're going to sort of sort out what is going on with that evidence. Why are we collecting it? What are we going to use it for as we talk about this concept of theme? So we're going to start with a short little video excerpt here.
Hey, this is Mr. Santo. Let's talk about theme. Okay, so you have to find the theme in some book you read for school. Well, I think that with a few exceptions, theme is the most important element in a work of literature because the theme is the literary work's primary purpose. And by literary work, I mean any written work of art, like a novel, play, short story, poem, or even a screenplay. The theme, and here's your definition, is the central idea of a work of literature. I often oversimplify this term for students by saying it's kind of like the moral of the story, the life lesson the author wants you to take away from the book. It's the message or the meaning. And that meaning isn't just about the characters, it's more abstract than that. It applies to you and me and everyone. The theme is usually universal, but at the very least, it's an idea that's bigger than just these characters and this fictional world. Don't tell me that the theme in Lion King is that Simba had to go back to rule his kingdom. The theme is bigger than just that one character. The theme is that all people should live up to their responsibilities because they're needed by the people around them. You see, that's a theme. Also, a theme is not the same as a subject. The subject of a work can usually be expressed in a word or two. Family, courage, the nature of love, right? That's the subject. However, the theme is the idea that the writer wishes to express about that subject. It's an opinion, not a fact. If you tell me that the theme is love, I'll say that's wrong, and I'll ask you, what about love? The theme isn't a thing. It must be an opinion about that thing. That's why I tell students not to merely Google, what is the theme of this book? Because you'll often get things like, one of the themes of this book is love, or social justice. The way I define it in my classes, those are subjects, not themes. Love isn't a theme. Love stinks is a theme. Get it? And it would be best if the opinion you came up with wasn't too obvious, like, it's good to be fair. Well, that's pretty obvious, and almost no one would disagree with that, so it isn't very interesting. And if that's all you need for the assignment you're currently working on, you can stop watching now. But theme is actually a little more complicated than that. You know how in life we notice things and we have experiences, we put things together in our minds and we gain insight or understanding about the world? We develop generalizations about how the world works or what people are like. For example, after several instances of having people pop up unexpectedly to help you reach some important goal, if you're an optimistic sort of person, you might say to yourself, well, I guess that's how life is. When you're trying to reach a difficult goal worth reaching, help will become available, even in the unlikeliest of situations. It's a nugget of wisdom you earned through observation and experience. You do this. Everyone does this. Chimpanzees can do this. Chimps learn that every year about this time, food can be found.
All right, so when we talk about this concept of theme, we mean that themes are what a work of literature is about on a much deeper level. We're not just looking at surface level things, the obvious things that we can notice right away, but really considering the big idea that the author has created for us readers that really gets to the central part of what that story is trying to be about. The theme has to have some kind of position. There has to be some perspective, some point of view about the conflict within the narrative. If there's no conflict, then there's really not much of a narrative. And without a point of view about that conflict, there's really not that much interesting about the story. Themes are not concrete, right? That would be something more like on the line of a subject. You can't just express a theme in a single word. The most important thing to remember as we talk about themes and develop statements of theme is that themes can be challenging to come up with. If it comes too easily, if the phrase that you create seems just really straightforward and super, super clear and almost kind of greeting cardy, then it's probably not a theme. You should have some kind of challenge and struggle as you develop your statement of theme. Another kind of interesting thing is that good stories almost always have multiple themes. That's part of what makes them engaging, and we've seen that in this unit. Themes are typically based on conflicts, and there can be multiple conflicts depending on the story, the type, the length of the narrative. You have basic conflicts like humans versus nature, human beings versus machines, a person versus him or herself. And then you get into more complex themes with more complex conflicts, like a rebellious individual's confrontation with a hostile society, or an individual's struggle towards personal enlightenment and understanding, an individual's conflict between passion and responsibility, the human glorification of the past or the rejection of the past, the impact that the past has on the present, fate. Fate is inevitable. We cannot avoid it, and that can be part of a conflict. The pain of love, the struggle for equality, the evil of unrestricted ambition, disillusionment or loss of innocence can be a type of conflict. You can have conflicts between parents and children. Of course, you have never had conflicts with your parents, but you might imagine cases where other people might have had conflicts with their own. The tension between the ideal, right, that sort of perfection that we might be seeking versus what is in reality. And that also bridges us to another type of conflict, how things seem versus how they really are. It's not a theme if it sounds too much like the moral of a story, right? Like those cutesy little fables we read about, or the end of a fairy tale, or a greeting card, or a fortune cookie. If it sounds too kind of perfect and well put together, it's probably not a theme. Cliches, common sayings, ideas that we get from parables and folktales, those are not themes. If it's a specific person, place, event, or object, it's not a theme. If it's only about one part of the story, if it doesn't connect multiple parts of the narrative, then it's not a theme. If it's a single word, it's not a theme. And, as I hinted at before, if it's easy to come up with, if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to knock that one out, it's going to be great, right? And you come up with this perfect little thing. Most likely, if it was that easy to come up with, it's not a theme, because developing themes is going to require a certain amount of struggle. However, if you are able to express your thought, your idea, your concept about a story in a single word, then it's probably a subject. And that's what we've been mostly working with. So subjects can be a variety of things, right? So, determination, bravery, awakening, disillusionment, experience, growing up, betrayal, family, liberty, fate, nature, hope, imagination, revenge, tradition, prejudice, perseverance, challenge. All of these are single concepts that have a lot of meaning behind them, but they're single word concepts. And so they give us a direction, but not an overarching theme. So what does a theme actually look like? You have some of these on your handout. One example of a theme could be something like this. Personal sacrifice can be both easy and intensely difficult to make, especially when one So, what does a theme look like? Personal sacrifice can be both easy and intensely difficult to make, especially when one's friends and loved ones are involved. Notice that it's a complete sentence, and it doesn't sound greeting cardy. It may sound similar to other kinds of concepts and ideas, and you could probably simplify it into a nice little cliche moral of the story kind of statement. But once you do that, you're stripping the statement of theme of its depth and complexity. Once you get rid of the depth and complexity, you don't really have much to stand on. Another theme could be, physical and mental violence are successful tools for controlling people and preventing rebellion. Again, not a greeting card. Don't know about you, but I don't think I'd like to get a greeting card that said, "My dearest Shannon, physical and mental violence are successful tools for controlling people and preventing rebellion." That just sounds creepy, right? That's not something that you would find in a fortune cookie. If it is, let me know where you get your fortune cookies. Electronic devices can destroy people's curiosity and desire to learn about and understand new ideas. Again, it's a little bit more technical, complex. It makes you wonder, what is this story about? Right? All of these sample themes are based on actual books, actual novels. And you might think, oh, what is that story about? There must be something deeper, more interesting going on there. And so keep that as kind of a core part of your crafting of a statement of theme. There's something kind of complex and interesting about it. Madness opens up the mind to new perspectives and provides access to greater imagination and self-discovery. That could be a very interesting one as well. Again, not an Aesop's fable kind of statement. This is not something you're going to get in a card from grandma. Again, if this is your kind of fortune cookie, I'd love to eat at that restaurant because I'd be super stoked to find one of those fortunes in my cookie. Okay, so let's start off with an example. We have here Harry Potter, right? And you could, hone in on just the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone or the Sorcerer's Stone, depending on which edition you're reading, fancy pants. Or you could say in general, right, throughout the entire series, right, what are the subjects of Harry Potter? In any case, you could say, simply like by looking at those lists that we have of subjects, friendship, bravery, then we have Frozen. All right. Take a moment and, just like you did with Harry Potter, jot down a few examples of words from our list, or words that you come up with that you think might be subjects, right? Simple individual concepts that could describe some of the things that are happening with the characters in the movie Frozen. All right, up. Oh, Mr. Fredrickson. All right, so take a few moments and jot down a couple of possible subjects that you think apply to the movie Up. Hunger Games, all right? And again, like with Harry Potter, you can think of this in terms of the first book in the series, or you could think broadly across the entire series. What are some subjects that appear throughout the story, right? What kinds of ideas does Katniss hold dear to her? What conflicts does she have with Gale and Peeta and with the other characters? How does she kind of work through those? So again, take a few moments, to write down some possible subjects that you could connect to Hunger Games. And the Maze Runner. What are some possible subjects that might apply to this? And again, could be a first book, could be across the series, some subjects that might be covered in these stories. And finally, Divergent. And just like the others that are series, you can think of this with the first book. You can think of it across all 3 books in the series and the little add-on bits that they've got. What are some subjects that can apply to Divergent? All right, so this is where we're going to pause for now. The next bits are for later on in the unit once we've finished everything up and we're ready to start talking about how to actually craft a statement of theme. Be sure that along with any subjects that you've written down, that you've completed any other assignments that are attached to this video, and we'll check in later.